Hey guys, welcome to Team O'Neill. I'm Jared, and today we're going to talk about transmissions. So what I'm doing here is I have a standard Fiesta ST transmission, all stock, and I'm going to take this apart, remove the stock open differential, and install a Cusco limited slip differential. And along the way, I'll talk about some reasons of why we do this for rally cars and the performance aspects that we'll gain from it. So to start off, there's some bolts on the inside of the bell housing I need to take out real quick. I'll knock those out, and then I can flip it onto its face and remove everything else. So there's 4 bolts there on the inside, as well as the 2 bolts that would go to the throwout bearing. The throwout bearing is not on this transmission right now, but the bolts are still in there, so I'll pop those out real quick. All right, those are out, so now I can do everything else from the face. That in neutral, and I'm just going to start removing these bolts going all the way around. And it is good practice to kind of jump around as you go on these bolts instead of just taking all the pressure off one side at a time. All right, so I've inspected all my bolts are out. I want to make sure that these are all out before I start really pulling and prying on anything because I don't want to have to fight any resistance and possibly damage anything. So take a quick check around, make sure you don't see anything else holding these case halves together. Looks good from here. So I'll give it a little shake, see if it wants to come apart. I need a little assistance. So I'll find somewhere, I don't want to just drive a screwdriver or a pry bar or anything right into the case halves itself, that machine face, that wouldn't be good. So I'm gonna look for somewhere maybe that has 2 pieces sticking out that I could do a little prying on. You see I can move that right there and I'm not damaging anything important. All right, so I've split the cases. I see that there's a good amount of oil in here. I'm going to clean that up before I make a mess. So here's the stock open differential. So there's not really built with any performance in mind, but this is really good for your street cars. And what it allows you to do is when you're driving your car down the road and you're trying to make a turn, since all 4 of your tires are on a different pattern, they're all going to go different speeds. So what this does is it makes up that difference for your inside tires that need to slow down a little bit and your outside tires traveling a further distance that need to go much faster. So this will allow that transition to happen nice and smooth without making the car bounce around or anything like that. The problem is since this is able to allow each tire to move at a separate speed, there's nothing that's really going to help you combine those 2 sides of the vehicle together. Therefore, if you're driving and one tire goes up in the air or one tire just loses traction on ice or a slippery surface, this is actually going to send all the power to that side that has no traction and not put any power to the side that does have traction, right? So you can think about that, and obviously if you're in somewhere where you're slipping, you really need to put power to that good traction tire. You're not going to be able to drive anywhere. You're going to sit there, you're not moving much, and the tire that's spinning is just going to spin twice as fast, actually. So I'm not sure if you'll be able to look inside and see in here. So we have our ring gear. This is the case for the open differential. These would be our side bearings. That's just kind of holding everything in place. And in here we have these two side gears, right? So these side gears, these are splined, and that's what your axle or your CV shaft is actually going to go into. So your CV shaft is connected into there. So as this gear is spinning right there, that's actually putting the power out to your CV shaft. You have one on both sides there. Now you can look and see that when I move one, hopefully you can see that, when I move one side this way, the other side's moving the other way. That's why if you jack your car up and you've ever spun one tire and you see the other side spinning backwards, that's why. Because there's such little resistance in the system right now that you can see these spider gears are also spinning in the opposite direction. That's what allows this to make separate tires move at separate speeds. So we are reusing the factory ring gear with this LSD. So I'm going to pop that off now. You're going to need a pretty sturdy setup. These are in very tight. Hopefully clamping this vise is going to be sufficient. And same thing, these ring gear bolts, it's good practice to kind of bounce around and do opposites. You don't want to just start on one side and work your way around. Sliding the whole table. There we go. So there's your open diff without that ring gear attached. Now Ford and most manufacturers do say not to reuse these ring gear bolts, so we will toss these to the side. So I got my new ring gear bolts, and I'm going to use a green sleeve retainer Loctite for this. Get a little on a couple of them so I can get it started. So this is a Cusco limited slip differential. So make sure everything's nice and clean. Get it lined up where you want it. And you can thread a bolt in. All right, they're all snug. Now I can torque these. The Ford manual says go to 50 Newton meters and then 90 degrees. So I'm going to set all of these at 50 Newton meters, and then I'm going to go back around and take all of them from where they were 90 degrees down. So it is important now to visualize, and if you really wanted to go the extra step, you could mark which one's which, or at least which one you started with, and you really want to work in a cross pattern. So start at one, go across, then up and down and work your way all the way around. So you're never just starting at one end and going all the way around. So I'll mark which one's my first one. Set this to 50 Newton meters. All right, now I'm going to take all of them to 90 degrees from where they are. All right, last one. All right, so I got my two new bearings to go on the outside of this diff. I got them heated up, so hopefully they'll slide on nicely. All right, so this transmission will actually go back together much nicer. Having this side down, everything already set up, the diff in here, and laying this half on top of it. So I'm going to prop that up, find something nice that you can slide under here so you can put a little pressure down on it. I'm also going to knock out the old axle seal and slide some new ones in. I can put them in after, but I do want to knock these out while I can do it nice and easily. All right, that's out. Reach down, get this one. There we go. Have my old axle seals out. I'm not going to bother putting the new ones in. I can do that after everything's assembled. All right, now that's all back together, I want to get a nice clean surface face here. If there's stuff stuck on there, you can use a razor blade and scrape it a little bit. Just be careful not to make any gouges or any big cuts in that face. That'll make it harder to seal up. While you have it apart, you have your magnet that's going to collect all your metal chunks that might be floating around there. Clean that off. Put that back in and just have a quick little visual, make sure everything looks good. No random bits or missing tools or anything floating around. And then get your gasket maker. You want to cut the tip pretty fine so you have a lot of control and you don't end up putting too much on in one spot. But not so small that takes forever to do. And just work your way around. All right, once that's done, we can set the case half right back on top. You might have to give it a little wiggle, but everything should go and set down into place. If you have to force anything, then something's not quite lined up right. Perfect. Take my first 4 bolts, throw these on the inside to hold it together so I can flip it over and do the rest. Once those are in snug, you can take your prop out, set it back on its face, and get to the rest of them. All right, my bolts are all tight. This transmission's all back together. I could put some axle seals in this and it would be good to go in a car. So since this is going into a rally car, I was able to skip a couple steps. So I didn't actually, knock out the old bearing races and re-shim behind it to get the correct preload on those 2 outer bearings for that diff. I slapped some new bearings on, so I'm not taking the old ones off the old diff, and assembled it. The shims, they're very, very small amount that you're actually going to change that preload, and it definitely would improve the life of that bearing, those 2 bearings. But like I said, this transmission is going to come out after every couple 100 miles of competition, and will be stripped down again and get checked. So we're able to keep an eye on those pretty frequently. So I'm not worried about those bearings wearing out that fast. That's just something I would want to do if I was going to put this in and try and get 100,000 miles out of this gearbox. Now the differential that I put in this, being a plate style differential, since there is wear items in there, that's also another thing. If you put one of these in your car, don't expect to go drive it for 100,000 miles without any kind of maintenance. It is something that, since there's wear items, it's going to start to change the way the handling characteristics work in it as things get worn out. As those plates get a little bit thinner, it's going to change how well that diff locks up. So if you do put a plate style differential in your car, it's not a set it and forget it. You can put it in, but you are going to have to do some maintenance every once in a while. And depending on how hard you're driving, how much you're using it, and how good your maintenance is going to change that, right? If you're using good oil, if you're not too aggressive on the vehicle, it'll definitely last a lot longer. But if you're really brutal and just beating on it and trying to run cheap oil and not changing it very often, then it's definitely, you're going to have some problems much quicker. All right, thanks for watching. I'm going to get this transmission ready to go back in the car and get that car ready for the next event. Hope to see you on the next episode.